you. There is something in your eyes that leaves me paralyzed, terrified that you'll love me better than anyone else. Are you here to save my life, or the devil in disguise, terrified that you'll love me better than anyone else before? Something in your eyes that leaves me paralyzed, terrified that you'll love me better than anyone else. Are you here to save my life, or the devil in disguise, terrified that you'll love me, love me, love me, love me better? There is something in your eyes that leaves me paralyzed, terrified that you'll love me better than anyone else. Are you here to save my life, or the devil in disguise, terrified that you'll love me better than anyone else before? Terrified that you'll love me better. Terrified that you'll love me better. I know you by 1,000 names. I sing them back to you. I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight?
Whoa. Whoa. One mic. Two mics.
Till I made.
Three mics.
I was breathing, but not.
This mic is broken, Ryan. It's broken. Oh, we got.
All my failures I tried to hide. It was my truth, yeah. Till I made you call my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness
Yes.
into your glorious
Are we on?
Are we on?
All right.
Hello.
All right. Welcome in.
Working.
Hey, if you are looking for a seat, if you are at the edge of the row, please squeeze to the middle, scoot to the middle, so we
Squeeze,
can have
squeeze.
some spaces
We all
for
like
everybody
each
else
other,
to
right?
follow in.
We're friends.
If you can't find a seat yet, middle school will be going upstairs afterwards, and you can steal from them. Here
All
we
right, we're
go.
gonna let y'all continue to funnel in. Good morning. It is a great Sunday. So
Great
happy
morning.
to see all of you. Hey, a lot of you had prom last night, right? Where are my promers?
Who had
Anyone?
prom last night?
Thanks
Raise your
for
hands.
coming.
Where'd they go? They're gone. They danced the night away.
Dance the night away. I love it.
Who went to Eli? Did you go to the prom?
Woo.
Did they play the Cupid Shuffle? Did they not?
Go-to
okay.
dance
You've
move.
got to play the Cupid Shuffle. at
Eli,
any-
go-to
at any
dance move. What is it? Go-to dance move. The gritty.
Was there a lot of grittying at prom?
Dance,
Do
have
it.
a dance. Dance, have a dance. Sorry. She put you on the spot there. What a good leader.
Wow, Blake, why are we here? Do we have anything going on?
Why are we here? I think we have a few things, like
Wow.
a middle school event
We
with a
do
lot
have
of
a middle school
information.
event.
You might call it an overload of
And
information.
it's an overload of information called Information Overload.
Woo!
There it is. It is going to be April 22nd through 24th. If you have not signed up yet, please do so. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be staying at a camp. We finally get to go away from staying in here. We get to go out. There's going to be gaga ball, mini golf, basketball, the outdoors. And
Skits.
some great skits. It's going to be incredible. So please, if you don't know if you're signed up or if you want to sign up, ask your parents. Go sign up at our website. It's going to be an awesome time. So let's fill up.
So much
April
fun.
22nd through 24th.
So much fun.
Woo! Sign up for that.
All right, so that's for middle school. Now we have an event coming up for all of you seniors in the room.
Ooh.
And it's called a little bit of a Senior Sunday. A Senior Sunday. Yeah, where are my
Wow.
seniors at? Round of applause for you. You're almost there.
Amazing.
Almost there. Finish strong. Well, Senior Sunday is just a celebration for our seniors with your families. It's going to be May 1st. In this auditorium, right
here.
after our service, okay, we're gonna have some Olive Garden, some breadsticks.
Whoa.
Come
Is
on.
this a free event?
Absolutely free.
Wow. So
$0.
does a senior in this room have any reason not to sign up?
Honestly, not really.
Wow, it's free food,
Come,
free
let
lunch.
us celebrate you. We did a slideshow of all your baby pictures, your senior pictures, some breadsticks. It's a
Absolutely.
good time.
And
it's a good time.
maybe at the end, they may add their painted handprints
Yes.
to our wall back
You will
there.
forever be engraved on the building.
We will remember you
It's
forever.
a fun time.
It'll be great. So sign up for that if you are a senior. RSVP up there. Free Olive Garden. It's a great time.
All right, and last but certainly not least,
In fact, maybe the most.
maybe the most.
This is a big thing. Today, or at midnight last night, some of you received an email that Sports World signups are now available. Huge. Huge.
We are so excited for Sports World. If you don't know, Sports World is a K through 5th grade sports camp in the summer. It is not overnight. They come in, we do some sports, we play some games, we watch some Veggie Tales. It is so much fun. So counselor and crew signups start today.
Yep.
We'll have our laptops out in the commons if you want to
do.
sign up for that, or you can do it at your own house on
It
your own
is,
computer.
remember, June, it doesn't say it up there. It is June 20th through 24th. So just remember that. Sign up. It's going to be an awesome time.
Hey, I think we have something to show them, right?
We have some promotion.
Do we have
Do we have a video?
some video?
Do we have a video? The
people
people want to
wanna
know
know.
if we have a.
Oh! All right, get your popcorn.
All right, everyone, let's try this again. Now, I know we've been a little rusty, but it goes like this. Okay, 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 okay. Okay. You see?
Okay.
All right, team, Sports World is coming soon. We're launching soon. I'm so excited for 2022. I've got a couple trivia questions just to kind of get our brains going. You ready? All right, who can tell me the year Sports World was founded? Yes, in the front.
1952.
That's a bit off.
Red, 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 red. Go blue, go blue. Let's make this place a zoo. Go red, go crazy in the head. Red, 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 red. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will.
Wow, you know when we were yelling, that was awesome. And
Man, y'all, that was so much fun.
I hope nothing bad happens.
Oh, Sports World.
What? What's going on?
What's that?
Wait, guys! Come here, come here. I hear something. I think there's something in the gym.
Hello. Check. There it is. Hey guys, thanks for coming this morning. If y'all want to stand up with me and say hello to your neighbor. Behind you too, not just beside you. Whoa. I appreciate that. Hey, behind you too, not just to the side people. Am I your neighbor? Have you said hi to Bryson? Amen, brother. Thank you. All right, guys.
Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. And I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways. And step by step you lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. And I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to praise. And step by step you lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways. And step by step follow you all of my days. tongues to lift one cry. Then from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Were the whole earth echoing his eminence, his name would burst from sea and sky. From rivers to the mountain tops, we hear Christ be magnified. And oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. And every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human heart its native cry. Then in one enraptured hymn of praise, we'll sing Christ be magnified. I won't bow to idols, I'll stand strong and worship you. And if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be formed by feelings, I'll hold fast to what is true. The cross brings transformation, I'll be crucified with you. This death is just a doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing and my soul will be the same. And oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. And oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Standing here in your presence, in a grace that's so relentless, I am won by perfect love, wrapped within the arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep. When I'm lost, you pursue me. Lift my head to see your glory, Lord of all. So beautiful. Here in you I find shelter, captivated by the splendor of your face. My secret place, I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. Oh, fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I seek. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. Your love so deep is washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. I'm wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. Oh, fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love.
Lord, thank you so much just for this opportunity, just to gather together and to worship you, God, and just to glorify your name. I thank you for what you've done for us, Lord, for sending your son to die on a cross, Lord, and living a perfect life, which we can't and we're incapable of. I pray that this morning that your word would just be heard, and that our hearts would be open to hear it and to change for you, Lord, and to look more like you. I pray this in your name. Amen.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I made. I was breathing but not alive. All
Dip Bible Student Ministries SMC Auditorium. We're first going to start, we're going to be passing out some note cards to you, and you're going to get one. And so that's the idea. We also have some pens that we can start around. If I have any helpers, we have a thing full of pens here, Dip Bible Student Ministry pens. They're different colors, but they're all the same. They have black ink, but they're fun colors. Everyone's going to need, or you can share with someone next to you if you want to share pens, that's great. But everyone needs their own note card. And the note card is a note card. It's not a little paper airplane. We're not going to tear it up. It's going to be, let me be like a teacher right now and say, like, get it and just hold on to it, because we're going to be using it throughout, and you're going to take it home. And it's going to mean something. It's going to mean a lot more than just a piece of paper when you leave. And I promise you're going to want to hold on to that, because we're in a really fun, one of the coolest chapters in Esther, and really in this time period in the Old Testament. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Our drama continues. This movie that has multiple scenes. It's going to be incredible. I want you to first, as we thank y'all, amazing leaders and helpers passing out the cards. I want you to think of a time where you were, the last time or maybe a time where you were really, truly afraid. You were scared to do something. You know you need to do it. You know maybe even God's calling you to do that. Or you don't even have to spiritualize it like that. You could just say, there's something I know I need to do, but I'm afraid to do it. I'm scared. I went camping a few weeks ago, and I'm not saying, like, I'm about to say a statement, and I'm not trying to be like all macho, but I'm really saying, like, I don't have any kind of those big fears. Like, I don't have like a fear of flying or like of heights or something like that, or public speaking, like a lot of them, like, people struggle with. But there is one thing that can scare me, and that is, and I think it's a healthy fear. Everyone needs to have like a healthy fear for what I'm about to tell you. That when you're going out in the wilderness, I have a healthy fear of some wildlife. And because I think if you don't have the healthy fear of some wildlife, you could end up in a very bad situation. And so you need to act wisely. And so I grew up going to Colorado a lot when I was younger. We didn't do the Disney World or Disneyland trips or anything like that. My parents' refuge was going up into the mountains, and so they took me there, and we would camp a lot. We would just go camp for a couple weeks and then come back home. And so that's where kind of they like to take us kids, and I love it. And so that is still something I like to do when I like to slow down. So a few weeks ago, I went camping, and I didn't have time to go out of state or anything like that. And so I said, well, you know what? When I went through A&M, everyone always talked about this place called Enchanted Rock. So I'll go down there. It's an easy drive, right? So I'd prefer to go up north of the mountains, hear me, but it's easy drive. And so I went down there and I camped, and it was just kind of to seek the Lord about a few things, and just to get away and just kind of slow down and to try and silence the noise that can be in our life. And I recommend you do the same, but just don't drive off and not tell your parents where you're going. Like, you can do it in your daily life. Like, you can take an hour here, hour there. You don't have to drive to go camping. So I went, set up camp, and I had a visitor come visit me the night I was camping there alone. And I thought there was going to be a lot more people there, but apparently not. But the first picture I want to show you is kind of where the campsite was. So it's in the hill country, so there's a lot of big rocks. I'm not going to call them mountains, but there's just a lot of random big rocks. That's why it's called Enchanted Rock. It's like this random mountain. And old Indian tribes and other people used to worship this rock because they're like, that's not man-made. This is crazy. And they would build altars on top of the rock. Anyway, you can go do that. This isn't that rock. The rock's much bigger. This is my actual campsite. So there's a giant, it just kind of goes straight vertical on rock. And that's very big incline. That's going to help determine what maybe approached me in my campsite that kind of drew in some great fear in me. And again, I'll say a healthy fear because, yeah, I'm in their territory. So it quickly goes dark, right? So when you're camping, you have to prepare in a way where, yes, you'll have some light, but you get all your things done when there is some light, because it just gets dark like that, and then you just get to chill by the campfire and actually probably get better sleep. You go to bed earlier. So the next picture, I don't know what I have next at all. Well, yeah, the sun sets. It's really pretty. Ooh, ah.
and actually didn't come in as quite nicely as I thought, low res. So it's getting darker, I'm making dinner, and all of a sudden I get this very human kind of chill up my spine because I realize that I'm being watched. And you kind of, I've going to Colorado, I was actually a junior park ranger, thank you very much, me and my sister. Right, this involved writing fake tickets to people if they were walking on areas of the tundra where you should. It's a whole thing, and that's for another day. I have pictures. But I know how to, when you encounter certain things in the wild, I know how to act. And thankfully, I've never had to do that. Like when you're in bear country, obviously you take that very seriously with where you put your food. Texas, we don't have that problem, thank you. But we do have a problem with mountain lions. So has anyone ever seen a mountain lion? Yeah, so that's a big deal. Okay. Didn't think we'd have any hands, that's great. Let's talk after. So I was sitting there making dinner, and all of a sudden, I have a headlamp that kind of pointed up, and I wouldn't have seen them unless I looked, which is also very scary. But on the ridge coming down, and I'm so sorry, it acts like I don't want to build up to this moment where you feel like I took a picture because I could not get a good picture. So I just kind of ruined that right now. So you're not waiting for the picture. I'm so sorry. But the next picture, if you go, so this is where I saw them. So this is the next day. Basically, I saw when they started up on the ridge, these two, what I am now thinking were just two maybe adolescent mountain lions because of the way they walked in zigzag pattern down the mountain, and they were up that high, and they were coming in, and cats are curious. And the number one thing about mountain lions is you'll never see them, but they'll see you, and they don't like to be seen. And so I just got this very fearful chill up my spine, like I said, because they walked in, I could see their eyes, they would stare at me, and they'd get closer and closer and closer until they got too close. I mean, they were like 15 to 20 feet away from me. So I had an axe in one hand and a rock in the other. I'm like, if you're coming after me, one of you is going down. Like, this is how this is going to go down. I'm going to go out swinging. And so since I was alone, I thought, well, let me go see if there is anyone else in the campsite. And so for the time being, I'm in their territory. I didn't want a curious cat. I didn't want to be the first encounter of a young mountain lion at all. That's not on my bucket list. And so I packed up the food I had, finished it, and I went, and as you do, as you're such a brave guy, I went and I waited it out for an hour in my truck because I was so afraid of just for instance, I'm going camping, I'm this big, I'm an outdoorsy guy, and all of a sudden you get a very human feeling, and you're like, this is really scary to me because I don't really have good reception out here, and anything could happen, and so that's also not really smart, by the way, so don't do what I did. But I went, and I just kind of talked myself down, and I thought, you know what, am I going to have courage? Am I going to have courage and bravery to go back to my campsite and to finish what I started to do? And I had to just have a good counseling session with myself, Maybe I came out here just to, overcome my fear of mountain lions, which is a very healthy fear, by the way. You should. And so I did it. I called my brother. I was telling him the story. It's a fun story. And I walked back, and everything was fine. I reported my sighting to the rangers the next day. We had a great talk about it. But I realized that day that even though I may live my life thinking, oh, not many things scare me, or I don't really struggle with fear often, that really did. And I wanted to share it because our story is extremely similar this morning. And I posed a question to you earlier, and I want to circle back around to it about things that make you afraid. Maybe you are that person. You're like, Keats, I've never been in an airplane, and I will never be in an airplane. It's that type of fear. My dad's dad, my pawpaw, never flew. He was really afraid of flying, so I get that. Or maybe it's something else like that. I know SATs are about to be here, so maybe it's a test taking for you. Maybe that even causes an anxiety in you, and that's a fear. And you're thinking about it. It's coming up, because it's a day on a calendar, and you're just, it's coming up, Maybe a lot of you are in plays and shows. Maybe you have more lines this time, and you don't want to let anyone down, and that's causing a little, butterflies and some anxiety and some fear. Keeps you on your toes as a good actor, actress. I get it. Maybe it's a conversation you know you need to have. Maybe with a person you're dating, or maybe with a parent. Maybe you got in a fight this weekend with your mom or dad, and you know it needs to be resolved, and you don't want to do it. You don't want to be the first one to talk. Maybe you got in a fight with someone you're dating. Maybe you're having just a lot of friend drama. I know with April, that can happen. We're in prom season. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that means you're all going to get along. I don't know. But at least when I was in high school, that can be a lot of just, I don't like saying this word, but just stupid drama. Just insignificant things. But it means something to you, I get it. But when you think about it, you're like, why are we fighting about this? Come on, let's be more mature. But that's fearful. I mean, having a conversation with one of your friends, that can be really tough. Maybe it's something else. There's something maybe in you that's causing you to be afraid and not take a step, or maybe not leave the truck and go back to the campsite because there may be a mountain lion there. In our story today, we get to see Queen Esther. She's been queen. Queen Esther is going to show courage and bravery when facing fear. When she's faced with fear, when she's faced with this situation that's calling her to do something where she's really going to have to trust God with everything. This really daunting situation that we're going to see in this story, which is like a movie in your Bible. We're going to see that she's going to show bravery and courage. And later on, I'm going to challenge you to have your Esther moment. And we're going to walk out of here thinking about this text in a new way. So despite being afraid, she's going to show courage and bravery. Because the story, we were in the story last week. We started, the king and old queen had a fight, and they divorced. And so he started this beauty pageant, and God orchestrated it, even though God is not mentioned in the story of Esther. And God orchestrated things where Esther becomes queen of Persia. And her heritage, she is a Jew, but she has kept that hidden from everyone. The story of Esther weaves an underlying story of God's sovereignty, despite there being a very desperate situation. Remember where we're at. Israel's been in exile. We started with Daniel, then Ezra. Ezra leads a return. So God's people are starting to return back to Jerusalem. But a lot of people like Esther stayed because Persia was awesome. And a lot of God's people, the Jews, stayed in Persia. And today we're going to see the greatest conflict into the story happen in chapter 3. But we're not going to be in chapter 3. If you have a Bible, you can turn to chapter 4, where we're going to be. But we're going to see God do something, even though he's not mentioned, we're going to see him do something extraordinary through an ordinary Esther. And our main theme, oh, thank you, amazing tech people. I mean, they're amazing. God is quietly using the ordinary for the extraordinary. And ding, 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 we're actually, the key verse, 4:14, we're in that today. We're in that today. God is never mentioned in the story, but he's more present than ever. And God is quietly working in the background. I brought this big quilt up last week, and we looked at just how everything's stitched together. And so maybe what you're going through right now, God is quietly working in the background, sewing and stitching it to become a beautiful masterpiece. And we have no clue. He seems distant, but that's, as we're going to see in the story, he's just getting all the more ready to deliver his people out of harm's way. He seems distant, but he's ready to deliver his people. He's in control of all things. Even when life does not look like a beautiful quilt at all, but just this rotten and random mess, what do we do with that? Enter Esther. Enter Esther. In this amazing story. So, before we start, I want you to take your card, your note card. I'm really happy today because it's Sports World Day, meaning it's Sports World Launch Day. So I'm really extra excited. I'm giddy and just excited to be here with you all just for another Sunday. Don't want to take any of these for granted. So if you turn to fun story, I don't know. the side of this is purple. I thought all these were going to be violet because Esther and I wore this. It was going to be this cool thing where I'm like, look, you have purple cards. I have a purple shirt. It's Esther. It's royalty. And I opened the package and they're actually white. So wink, wink. So on one side, you choose the side. I have a card up there, actually. Wow, so official. You can write Esther 4:14 on one of the sides. You choose. It's like we're in school. Oh, that was like probably hundreds of dollars. It's fine. Esther 4:14. Then, I want you to turn it over. Uh-oh. I want you to turn the card over, draw a line down the middle. Draw a line down the middle on the other side and write this. Write this. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Who knows whether you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this? You'll see later, we're going to get in the text. Your text might put a not in there. It says, who knows whether or not. You know, it's just kind of how we talk, but a lot of the text also just leaves it out. So it's kind of more clear for the mind to take that out. Who knows whether you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Hold on to it. This is our project. You didn't even know. And as you do that, let me just, before we start chapter 4, verse 1, and we see Keats, what's the deal? What is this thing that Esther's going to be so afraid of? What's going on? Talking about all this fear? Maybe you don't remember that in the Esther story. Well, hang with me in a second. I promise I'm going to show you VeggieTales clip. But in chapter 3, watch how on one slide, you're going to be caught up in chapter 3. There's really 3 things that happen in chapter 3. Remember when I say we talk about Haman, we use the word wicked before Haman? Well, wicked Haman in this story becomes really wicked in chapter 3. Watch what happens. And I gave you some bullet points of what actually happens. So after these things, in verse 1 in chapter 3, the king promoted Haman and advanced him on his throne above all the other officials. And all the king's servants who were at the king's gate bowed down and paid homage to Haman, for the king had so commanded concerning him. But Mordecai, here it is, but Mordecai did not bow down to Haman. The first point in chapter 3, as we fly through this quick summary, is everyone else, all the king's servants are bowing down to Haman. We don't know if they're like worshiping him. A lot of people think they're just honoring him. They worship a lot of other gods. But Mordecai didn't even want to honor him. And he was right to do that. He said, I'm not going to bow down to you, even though he's promoted. And in verse 5, this angered Haman, as you can imagine, this wicked Haman. In verse 5, Haman was filled with fury. Of course he's mad. Why aren't you bowing down? So, okay, let's blow things out of proportion if you're Haman. This is what he does. He might have an anger problem. Instead of talking it out, he devises this evil plot to execute all of Mordecai's people, all God's chosen people, all Jews in Persia. So that is something, that is called an overreaction. So he's mad at Mordecai. So he's like, you know what? I'm just not going to hurt Mordecai. I'm going to hurt all of his people. There's really not a way to explain this logically, because in the text it's just so fast. He disdained to lay hands, in verse 6, lay hands on Mordecai alone. So as they had made known to him the people of Mordecai, they told them Mordecai was a Jew, Haman thought. In his little, think of like a wicked dungeon. He's just dreaming of all these horrible things, these sinful things. He says Haman sought to destroy all the Jews, the people of Mordecai, throughout the whole kingdom. This is outrageous. Wicked Haman. Hold on to the card, and before we move on to the next thing in chapter 3, this is a little bit what it looked like in VeggieTale fashion. Whoa!
But Haman had something
Overlap.
else up his sleeve. Or wherever. You see, nothing could be worse for Haman than for his enemy Mordecai to be on a king's good side. If the king liked Mordecai more than him, it might jeopardize his position as the second in command. So Haman came up with his own sneaky little plan.
Your Highness, I believe there is much to fear.
Really? Those peonies are no longer here.
A much greater danger may await you now.
How's that possible?
With permission, Your Highness, I'll tell you how.
The provinces of your kingdom, their laws are different from those of every other people, and they do not keep the king's laws. Y'all, I am getting flashbacks to Daniel when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were called certain Jews. This was a derogatory term used back then in ancient Persian culture. And look what happened. The same thing is being said. There's these certain people scattered here that really, Haman's saying, they don't belong here. They don't obey our laws. They're a threat. He lies. Haman is wicked. He lies. He schemes. The king really, before this, why should he have any issue with God's people living there? But Haman turns it on him and says, you know what, they're a threat. And Haman kind of sweetens the offer. Remember how much he gives them money, right? Y'all know this. 10,000 talents of silver. And for whatever reason, we'll get the PowerPoint on there in a second. For whatever reason, the king approves the plan. Scholars alike, they don't really know why the king approves this plan. It doesn't make sense. It is bonkers why he does this. He wasn't in the right state of mind at all. This is insanity. To annihilate an entire people group? He even gives Haman a signet ring, which is his seal, like Joseph got the Pharaoh's signet ring. So now Haman, wicked Haman, has complete, absolute power. Complete, absolute power. This is still in chapter 3, one before that. And the king sends his decree out in 12 through 15, and it goes throughout all the land. And they had decided that, okay, in 11 months, they sent a decree out, and they said in 11 months, we're going to have a decree, and we're going to kill. Watch what happens in verse 13. Letters were sent out by the couriers to all the king's provinces with instruction. Listen to this. This is what's going to happen in 11 months. All right? We're talking about fear here. Instruction to destroy, to kill, and to annihilate all Jews, young and old, women and children, in one day, the 13th day of the 12th month. So from this point on, in 11 months, they're going to try and annihilate an entire people group. This is evil and absurd. I want to attach the word absurd. The king can't be in the right state of mind. It doesn't make any sense. And watch what, this is the last verse in chapter 3 sets us up for chapter 4. And the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city was thrown into confusion, or much confusion. No one understands this. Jewish people and un-Jewish people alike. It's outrageous. Why would the king do this? It doesn't make any sense. It's complete. It's Haman's evil plot. It's complete evil. But our character who's quietly working in the background, God, have you noticed he did something in here? He actually kind of jumped into the drama. He allowed 11 months of time. He made it to where this decree could have gone out overnight. But God has now extended it to 11 months. And so now enter Mordecai and enter Esther. What are they going to do with this problem? This is they could have a great fear about this, but this is a great moment for them. And watch what happens in chapter 4, where we're going to just be the rest of the time real quickly. And we'll see Esther's response here in chapter 4. And we're going to see that Esther's courage is on full display in the face of fear. So look with me, if you will, in verses 1 through 3 of chapter 4. This is how we're going to respond to what we just saw. Haman's plot is going to be revealed all throughout the land in verses 1 through 3. It's going to be revealed all throughout the land. When Mordecai learned about all they had done, Mordecai what? He tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out to the midst of the city. He's distressed and cried out with a loud, bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one was allowed to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. And in every province, watch this, all Jews, wherever the king's command, his decree reached, there was great mourning among all the Jews with fasting and weeping and lamenting. And many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. Haman's plot has been revealed. It's been communicated. And God's people are broken. They are torn up. That's what I want you to see here in the first 3 verses. Mordecai and all of his fellow Jews are just torn up. They tear their clothes, puts on sackcloth and ashes. It's just a visible sign of mourning, of severe mourning and distress. Kind of like, you've done everything else. You're at the end of the rope. You're like, I can do nothing else. It's almost like a hopeless state, like a childlike hopeless state of confusion, of mourning, of, I need to understand this. Maybe you've been through something like that where you didn't have the words. You didn't want people to speak the words to you. You didn't want to do anything but just sit and maybe silence. You're like, I didn't know. That's the best I can compare this to, how they're feeling at this time. And having it on the calendar to know when it's going to happen. I mean, there's this confusion, distress. And Esther doesn't know yet. But watch what she does know. She's going to learn about Mordecai's state, and she's going to have questions. In verses 4 through 11, if you like to take notes in your Bible, verses 1 through 3 were Haman's evil plan. His plot was revealed. But in verses 4 through 11 of chapter 4, Mordecai's plan is going to be presented. He's going to have a plan here. But watch what happens in verse 4. Esther's going to find out something. Esther's young women and their eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai and what was happening, how he was in mourning. And Queen Esther was deeply distressed. And so she sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. He would not accept them. Esther was deeply distressed. It means severe pain. This is even causing her physical pain about her cousin Mordecai and his state and his anguish. And that his anguish brought on her agony. She's like, oh, I want to do anything I can. I'm going to send him garments. And watch what happens. He responds in verses 6 and 7. They went and found Mordecai in the open square of the city by the king's front gate. This is where all business was done. This is like city center, all right? This is like, hey, I'll meet you at the square. So they went down and met Mordecai there, this servant from Esther. So basically, Esther and Mordecai in chapter 4 are going to talk to each other, but use through people. They're not going to see each other because she's queen and he's a king's servant in great distress. Okay. In verse 7, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him in the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai explains what actually happened, and he warns Esther. He's saying, listen, a decree just went out, and it's worse than you think. Haman, he paid him off with this amount of money, the exact sum. We don't know how Mordecai knew the exact sum, but he was really close. He was promoted and promoted. God was promoting Mordecai, and somehow Mordecai knew this entire plan because he was one of the king's servants. And he exposed the king's and Haman's plot with the money exchanged. But he proposes something else. It's that alone. But watch what he says to Esther. This is kind of bold. I thought, this is bold. And this is going to bring us to our main point. Watch in 8-9. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree issued in Susa for their destruction, that he might show it to Esther. And here's the main plan. Write the word plan next to this kind of later half of verse 8. And explain to her and command her to go to the king to beg his favor. You kidding me? And plead with him on behalf of her people. And so Hathach went and told Esther what Mordecai had said. What? That was pretty bold, Mordecai. That's your plan? You're presenting to that she should go do something about this to the king? And to kind of unveil herself as a Jew herself? Like that seems, I'm already getting a little anxious about that. One, she's learning, okay, all God's chosen people, there's a decree to kill them in 11 months. And now you want me to go immediately and do something about that and tell him I'm one of those people? Really? Really? And this is how she responds in verse 10 and 11. Hang with me. We're almost to that clip. Watch this. Then Esther spoke to the servant and said, you go back and tell Mordecai this. That's okay. She doesn't say it's a crazy plan, but she says this. All the king's servants and the people of the king provinces know that if any man or woman, here's the problem. If any man or woman go to see the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law to be put to death. If I go in there and without being summoned, what's going to happen? He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me, Esther says, unless the king holds out a golden scepter so that he may live. But as for me, end of verse 11, watch this. This is key before we get to our main point. I have not been called to come to the king for 30 days. Esther responds. She says, let me gently remind you, Mordecai, you have to be summoned before the king. You can't just walk in and appear and say, I want to talk to you. Even the queen can't do that. Side note, that's also like his absolute power versus Esther, queen, really has none in his eyes. She says, you want me to do this? And she says, I haven't even seen him for 30 days. This makes a lot of people think maybe the king and queen were in a fight. And so now she's really, again, it doesn't say that, but she hadn't. There's some distance between the king and queen. And so Esther's like, no. This isn't even a good time for this. We're not on good speaking terms anyway. And you want me just to appear and say, hello. Also, I'm Jewish. And can you save all my people? That is scary. And this did cause a lot of fear inside Esther. She's sitting there like, can I do this? In the face of fear, can I really do this? Watch what happens. In verse 12 through, we finish the story in 12 through 17. And watch Mordecai's response. So we have a very scared Esther, and now Mordecai speaks into this. Watch this. And they told Mordecai what she had said. And then Mordecai, this is what he said. Do not think, he says, Esther, do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise up from the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Stop right there. Hold off. Don't read the last part. Mordecai responds. He says, this is kind of confusing verse up there. He basically says, you know what, Esther? If you do or don't do that, you might end up dying either way. Not to sound so morbid. But if you go and speak to the king and he kills you, okay. But if you wait 11 months, you might die then as well. Because they're probably going to find out you're Jewish as well eventually. You're talking to me so much. I mean, they're going to put two and two together, Haman those things. So he's saying, listen, like, he's trying to zoom out here and say, Esther, Esther. I really can't tell you what to do, but this is what I suggest. You might die now, or you may die in 11 months. But he says, but relief and deliverance will come from another way. In the midst of this confusion, he has this, God kind of sneaks in a verse here, and he's saying, you know what? Another place. Relief and deliverance will come from another place. Like, God's going to do something about this. God's not going to let all of his people be destroyed. But in doing so, Mordecai then suggests a providential reason for Esther becoming queen for this precise time in history. He says, and who knows? He builds it up to say, you know what? That's bad. But, Esther, who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther, who knows? In this great thing called time, where God makes time. And, you know, way back there with Abraham and all the nations starting, and then through Joseph, and then all of the king's tribes, and the kings are coming, and then we get to the exile, and then we get to the return era, and we get to the time where we're getting closer and closer to Christ. And Esther, he says, you are here for a reason. Who knows? I don't. Who knows whether or not you're here for such a time as this? This is going to represent Esther. So I think this is Christ. So I think let's say around here is Esther. He says, who knows why you're here for such a time as this, Esther? In the grand scheme of things, Mordecai zooms out for some theology lesson. He says, I don't know, but it could be for a reason. Again, I'm not the person that has to go talk to the king, but Esther, maybe it's for a reason. Maybe you're going through this, you have this fear in front of you, this giant. You could suffer, but maybe it's all for a reason. Maybe, just maybe. Who knows? He says. What if you being queen was all for a reason, and what if it's for a time like this? What if? He's just saying, he's playing the what if game. What if, Esther? What if this is your moment to rise up? God's placed you here. You weren't just found here. You weren't just born here. God allowed you to be born here. You were placed here. It's not random. It was put in motion by God for this time, for such a time as this. It's not random. It was God's hand. What if? The God character isn't mentioned, but you can feel the presence of the God character in this moment. Who knows? What if, he said, what if he was, Esther, what if he's working quietly in the background to use the ordinary you for the extraordinary? Who knows why he could do that? And watch what happens in 15 through 17. This is the outrageous thing. Then Esther told them, after she heard that, Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, okay, here's the plan. Go, gather all the Jews together to be found in Susa, and hold it fast on my behalf. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and the young women will also do the same. And here's where I want you to highlight, throw out highlighters to you. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Mordecai then went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. That's chapter 4. If I perish, I perish. I don't know if I've ever been that brave. I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever shown that much bravery in my life. And I've been doing a lot less than Esther's asked to do right now. This is crazy to me. She agreed to intervene to the king on behalf of God's chosen people, even though it might end her life. So they held this 3 days of fasting. Again, God's not mentioned, but they're fasting and praying to God. He's there, he's just not written. Isn't that funny? And what's her perspective about death now? If I perish, I perish. This is why chapter 4 is about Esther's courage on full display. Her bravery and courage is on full display. She's trusting in God who's quietly working in the background. So if you can, take out your note card. Take out your note card before we watch the last clip. You've been great. Turn it to the side where there's a blank space on the bottom. And as you watch this clip, be thinking about the text. Be thinking about everything we just talked about. And maybe on the bottom, this is what I want you to consider writing. It could be one word. It could be a couple words. It could just be, it's between you and the Lord and you. Where is God calling you to have courage today? Where are you needing to trust God today? Those are just some of the questions you can think and maybe answer. What is the fear that you just maybe want to write down there? Maybe it is as simple as, I don't know, the SAT test is coming up and it's caused, I'm just not trusting the Lord with anything. I don't know. Maybe it's with grades, or maybe it's so much bigger. Maybe it's you're a senior and you're just, I don't know, all the college applications are really getting on you. I don't know. But there's some place in my life, there's some place in your life where you really need to trust God right now, and you're against the wall, and you need an Esther moment. You need to have an Esther courage and bravery moment for where you're backed into. So watch this clip and be thinking about what you want to write. And I'll end it. That the beginning of that verse, who knows, kind of has been striking me, because we could add that on to so many things. You know, who knows why God has allowed something maybe to enter into your life? You could even take that further. Who knows why he allowed his plan, his sovereign will to even allow sin to enter into the world at all? Who knows why really hard breakup? Or why you still struggle with blank in your life. I don't know, insert whatever. Well, you still struggle with that. You can't seem to find victory. Or maybe when your parents split up last year, why he allowed you to go through that. Why did that happen? Who knows why that happened? Why even allowed, like I said, sin to enter the world? Why you lost a loved one? Why things are not, when we live in this sinful world, people go hungry every day. Wars just randomly can break out at any point. The enemy seems to be just having a field day and winning at all times. Who knows? But then as I zoom out even further, I say the same about God. I say, who knows why he sent his only son for someone like me, for someone like us, just sinners. Who knows why he spared us this long? Who knows why he still has patience? Who knows why he loves us at all? So when we're thinking about Esther and having this Esther moment in your life, he's calling you to do something that's maybe you're incapable to do on your own, but you need to have strength and courage and bravery like Esther. In this moment, you're going to write that on your card and you're going to take it home. And I want you to put it in a place where you're going to remember it. Because what if none of that was random, but what if it was all for a reason? Genesis 50:20, as for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Romans 8:28, and we know that those who love God, all things work together for good. What if none of it was random, but it was all for a reason? And one day we'll look back and see why it happened. Because that's around the time of Esther and Jesus, and her time was there for such a time as this, and we're over here for such a time as this. And God has placed you, orchestrated it for this season of your life to zoom out and to think, and that line just goes on that way. God eternally goes that way. He's not in time. He's just straight, that way and that way. Blows my mind. What if God isn't absent from your life? He's just quietly working in the background, and we can trust and hold on to those verses that he can work all things together for good. And so whatever you've written on that card, I want you to take it to heart. Maybe put it inside the chapter in Esther and think about it and reread it. Say, Lord, give me the strength of Queen Esther. He's calling you to have the same courage today. He's calling you to stand in the face of fear for such a time as this. You are in that situation. You can say, for such a time as this? Maybe so. Maybe so. Maybe he does have me here for such a time as this. I've just thought of that the wrong way. I've thought about it this way. I need to turn my thinking around. Wow, God has allowed me to be here. He's allowed me to be here. Esther was allowed to be queen for such a time as this. This is the prayer I've been praying for y'all, and I want you to be able to get honestly to say, Lord, use me as you see fit. I want to be an agent for you to deliver your wonderful promises and plans to the world. Lord, use me as an agent for you to deliver your wonderful promises to a hurting and broken world. And if the God of Esther is the God of today, which he is, because Hebrews 13:8 says Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. If the God of Esther is the God of today, then he's still working. He's still using you, even when you can't see it. He's still in control. He's still writing Esther moments into your life. So take those. Go have them. Go lead others and win others to Christ. Become an agent and vessel of good use for God. Who knows? I don't know how God is going to use all of you. When I'm thinking about Esther 4:14, I cannot wait to find out and watch you go and be used by him. So let's pray. Father, thank you for these students. What an amazing chapter. We give you thanks just for whoever wrote the story of Esther and for your work in Esther, even though it's not mentioned, that we want to have the same faith, the same courage, the same bravery to do what's asked of us. And a young Esther just rises up, and we're going to see next week as she goes to the king, we'll see what happens. But she says, if I perish, I perish. That's been ringing through my mind, and I pray that it could ring through our minds and our hearts as we exit today. We love you and we thank you. We give you many thanks. In your son's name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. You're dismissed. Wednesday, we're back for Elevate.
Worthy of every breath
Sign up for Sports World. In the comments, sign up for Sports World.
Jesus, the only one who could ever say you're worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in makes no sense, but you say that's what faith is for.